Hey guys, in this video I'm super excited to check out the brand new Sony a6100, which was released just about a week ago by Sony. A portion of this video is sponsored by Skillshare. So let's take a look at everything that comes in the box. I'm not going to do a traditional unboxing, but I'm just going to lay out everything. So you get a bunch of manuals as you would expect. In addition, you get a brand new strap, which is cool, a micro USB cable, you get an eye cup, a charging brick, a battery, and a cap for the front of the camera. Pretty simple packaging. Sony really hasn't changed their packaging since like 5 years ago. So nothing new to report there. Here is the a6100 body, and I've placed a Sigma lens on it just for fun. This is what it looks like. You could see that immediately the finish on this is a little bit different than the a6400. In fact, it's different than the a63, a65, and a6400. The finish and body of the a6100 most closely resembles that of the a6000 that it replaces from many years ago. It's the same kind of plastic build, very smooth, semi-gloss finish. I was expecting this body for some reason to have the same finish as the a6400, so it is a bit of a disappointment. Otherwise, there are very few differences between these two cameras. The button layout on the back is identical. The button layout on the top also is identical. Around the side, there are no differences. On this side, the only difference is the addition of a headphone jack with the new camera, which is very nice, and many people have been waiting and asking for that. Obviously, the last thing is the flip out screen, which is a big deal if you are recording yourself, because this helps a whole lot. So physically, the a6100 very closely resembles the a6000. Internally, however, that's where all of the updates have happened. And in fact, this a6100 shares more internally, at least, with the a6400 than it does with the a6000. So a good way of thinking of the a6100 is it's an a6400, but just in an a6000 camera body. So for the rest of this video, what I'd like to do is I'm going to focus on the differences between the a6100 and the a6400, because I think that if you're new to Sony APS-C mirrorless, you're probably looking at both of these models asking yourself which one is the better buy. And I'll explain here in a little bit why I think the a6100 has a big problem. So let's talk about similarities between the a6400 and the a6100 first and foremost. They both use the exact same sensor. From my limited testing over the last week or so, the image quality that I'm getting out of the a6100 matches exactly the images that I'm getting out of my a6400, with good lenses, of course. Both cameras feature Sony's excellent 425 phase detection and 425 contrast detection autofocus points. The autofocus is very quick, very accurate. Really, it's one of the things that differentiates this lineup of cameras from every other camera on the market. The autofocus from Sony mirrorless, especially on these APS-C newer bodies, is amazing. Another great thing about Sony's autofocus system, and something that both of these cameras have, is real-time tracking. So not only do you get the excellent eye autofocus, but you have real-time object tracking. With Sony's new AI system, there's really nothing in the market that comes close. Both the a6100 and the a6400 also record in 4K up to 30 frames per second. And the nice thing about Sony 4K is that you get an excellent downsampled 6K image into a 4K resolution, so the footage that you get, the 4K footage at least, is very sharp with a ton of detail. Another similarity between these two cameras is that they both shoot at 11 frames per second. So a6400, really fast. A6100, it's not really as fast. And what's interesting to me is that the shutter does sound a bit different between these two cameras, but in my opinion, a6400 seems like it's a little bit faster than the a6100. Both of these cameras also have built-in time-lapse, which is really nice, and they have the brand new My Menu system. So you can customize the menu settings that you use most frequently and have them under your own tab, which is really nice. So there are a lot of similarities between these two cameras, but the differences are a little bit bigger, or there are more differences than I initially expected. And that's really where my opinion on this A6100 changes. Now, before I get there, I do want to talk about today's video sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes covering dozens of creative and entrepreneurial skills. With premium membership, you get unlimited access so you can join the class that is right for you. Skillshare is the perfect place to continue growing and learning. So I watched a Skillshare class led by a very prominent logo designer where he walked through using grids to create shapes inside of your logos, from a sketch, importing it to Adobe Illustrator, and then getting to the final product. That is just an example of one of the thousands of classes that are available through Skillshare. And when you compare Skillshare to traditional classes where you attend in person or workshops, it is much more affordable. An annual subscription will cost you less than $10 per month. And because Skillshare is sponsoring this video, if you sign up using the link down below, you will get 2 months absolutely free. So definitely check it out in the description. So let's go back to the A6100 review. So now let's talk about the differences between the A6100 and the A6400. I was expecting these two cameras to be a lot more similar. There are a couple of compromises that you have to make with the A6100 if you're wanting to save, $150, which is about the price difference between these two cameras. So the first thing that's different between these two cameras is the body itself. Now, the weight is very similar. The A6400 weighs a couple of grams more. It's negligible. However, the body on the A6400 is a magnesium alloy. It is also dust and moisture resistant, in addition to being weather sealed. The body on the A6100 is made out of a composite plastic, which means it's not dust and moisture resistant. So if you're planning on going out in the weather, or you get a lot of snow or rain and you're worried about water, I wouldn't recommend taking your A6100 out. Whereas with the A6400, you're probably gonna be just fine. If that was the only difference between these two cameras, for most people, I would recommend spending the extra $150 and getting the weather sealed body. Not only is it a little bit more protection for your expensive camera gear, but it also feels a lot more premium. It feels like a much higher end camera. If you hold the A6400 in your hand and then you switch over to the A6100, the A6100 just feels a touch cheaper, unfortunately. The other compromise with the A6100 comes from the viewfinder itself, which I use my viewfinder on the A6400 all the time. It's so much easier to use the electronic viewfinder than it is to see what my image looks like on the back of the screen, especially in a bright environment like I'm in right now. Now with the A6100, you get a viewfinder that has 1.44 million pixels versus almost double that, 2.3 and some change million pixels with the A6400. And although for most people, if you don't have both of these cameras side by side, you might never notice the difference. Personally, because I've used the A6400 so much, it's hard going back to a lower resolution electronic viewfinder. It's just not as nice looking. Another thing missing from the A6100 that I've been using a lot with the A6400 is the shutter auto white balance lock. Now what that is once you hold down your shutter and you start recording a video, the auto white balance that the camera is doing just never changes from scene to scene. With this camera, the A6100, the auto white balance may change if it gets a little bit brighter or a little bit darker in your scene, and it just doesn't look that great if you're cutting around in your video and your colors are going all over the place. So it's a feature on the A6400 that I really do like, and unfortunately, it's not available here. The next thing that's missing from the A6100 that is on the A6400 that many of us already knew from the announcement is the lack of picture profiles. So if you shoot a lot of video, but not even if you shoot a lot of video, if you shoot any amount of video and you want more control over your colors, even if you're like me and you don't use picture profiles all that often, it's nice to know that you have the availability of using them on something like the A6400. What it allows you to do is shoot in a flat profile and then pull out highlights or deep colors and get a very nice cinematic look to your video footage. If you are a wedding videographer or even a YouTuber and you use these cameras to create video content, especially for paying clients, spend the extra money, get the A6400. Another difference between these two cameras is the buffer. So while the processor is the same, both of them have excellent autofocus, the buffer on the a6100 isn't as good as the buffer on the a6400. With the a6100, you can shoot up to 77 JPEG images in a row or 33 RAW images in a row before the buffer gets full. With the a6400, you can get up to 115 JPEG images or 46 RAW images before the buffer fills up. At the end of the day, I have to say that the biggest problem that I have with the Sony a6100, it's just priced way too close to a much better camera that is the a6400. $150 is not worth the sacrifice of all of the features that I just listed for you guys. So I'd still recommend going with the a6400 if you're shopping between these two cameras. Now, that's not to say that that might not change in the future, because if the price difference between these two was closer to $250 or $300, my thoughts would be very different. As it sits right now, I can't recommend buying the a6100, especially when I know there's something that's so much better for only $150 more. And in the world of Sony APS-C, if you're spending, this lens right here is $400, $150 really isn't that much more money to save up and buy a better camera. So that is going to be it for my review of these two cameras. Let me know down in the comments what you guys thought of these two cameras. Also curious if you guys are planning on upgrading from your a6000, a63, or a65 to one of these new cameras, the a61, a64, and a66. Leave a comment down below, I'm curious. As always, if you guys are interested in buying either one of these cameras, I will post links down below to Amazon and B&H, so definitely check those out. By using those links, you do help support the channel, so thank you so much. Thank you guys for all of your likes, comments, and support. Stay tuned for more, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.